stumbled into the retail business. So spent some time opening stores. Over the course of about 7 years, I opened 11 locations. Some of them crashed. Some of them did very well. And then I got bored and decided I'll go back to school. So I went to SMU and I got a master's degree in business. Phenomenal experience, great contacts, an amazing alumni, and highly recommend that program. But what it taught me is that I was learning all these metrics and all these banking and all these business and why businesses fail and why they succeed. And I looked into my own businesses and understood very quickly that the Amazons and the internet was going to kill retail and some of the things that we were doing. So through that process, decided to start Proxy Pay. I have a partner, and what we do is we do a lot of business consulting work with small businesses. We end up with lots of startups, guys that are great at their job, and they leave their company and they go out and say, I'm going to start my own company. We've got contractors, got a couple of dentist offices, we've got people that have spun out from their umbrella in the employment world, and they're good at what they do, but they don't know the back end of business. So we work with a lot of them, and I always like to talk to people and visit with them and try and give them something that they can take away. Primarily, and people laugh at me because I say there's 4 number one things. Each one of them is a number one thing that you have to manage correctly, efficiently, and ultimately will lead to profit. The first one is stuff. Property, plant, equipment, inventory, how you buy it, how you hold it, how long you hold it, how soon you're able to get rid of it, and those metrics come out and go to the bottom line. The second one is money. And a lot of times people think, well, money is what I've got in the bank. Well, it's also your accounts receivable, it's your accounts payable, it's how long you have those dollars out, how soon you get them back in, how you use your money to leverage different things inside your business, and there are efficiencies that have to go around that. The third one, and this is the most neglected and overlooked, and this is really kind of the focus of what we're doing in Proxy Pay, is your human capital. People don't factor down what it costs to turn over an employee in a particular position. So your human capital, how long they stay, how you're managing your employee experience, very, very important to the profitability of the firm. The fourth most important thing to an entrepreneur that has to be managed correctly and can kill or determine whether a business is successful is the entrepreneur's time. Because how much time do they spend on particular tasks? And efficiencies are very, very important. So we start with the efficiencies, then we move into the employee experience, and we try and tie all those things together. One thing that a lot of people find valuable in the way they approach how they use their time is you can only, as a business owner, spend your time on one of 2 things. And that's either going to be revenue-producing activities or non-revenue producing activities. So if you're spending time in a process that doesn't actually generate dollars to the firm, it's one of those processes that needs to either be outsourced, automated, and put to some sort of efficiency. If it's a revenue-producing activity, we need to find a way to make it faster. We need to find a way to make it more profitable, and to make sure that those are the focus of the company. So we spend a lot of time with the entrepreneur and the small business and the startup to make sure that they are approaching the processes in their business, their human capital, their intellectual capital, the things that they know, and importantly, the social capital, because that can be leveraged into very inexpensive marketing dollars. So they can spend their time and their efforts in a place in their business that generates revenue and mitigate and limit a lot of the things that are taking their time and essentially their dollars. So that's kind of what we do. We started about a year ago, and that's where a lot of the conversations with the entrepreneurs that we visit with starts. So you guys open it up to questions. I know it was very broad, but I did want to touch on some things. A lot of times people ask about experience, or they start with problems I'm having in businesses, and then they really kind of fill in the blanks from there.
Okay. So what are one of the biggest problems you're having in business?
One of the biggest problems Well, I mean, it sounds terrible to say that we don't have any problems. Every business has its problem, but growth is always one of the things that companies want to do. How do we grow? How do we afford to grow? And how do we do it efficiently and safely for the clients that we're growing with? So growth is always a concern with clients, and it's also a concern with our company too.
What is your growth strategy?
We do a lot of partnerships with economic development councils, chambers of commerce. You've got a law firm that says, we're getting killed on our health insurance. How can we lever that down? Well, let's look at what you're doing. You're on a fully insured plan. We can leverage you into a relationship with a bigger group and leverage that down, help them and help us grow too.
And where are y'all based out of?
So I live about 30 minutes east of here. We're a virtual company, and so we're paperless. I was having a conversation earlier with Ruth. I don't have any files. Everything's on a machine. It's in the cloud. Our employee experience, whether it's their taxes or their 401k, it's on their phone in their pocket. And you guys have cars. A lot of people have cars that can park themselves. The last thing they want to do is call Mildred at the company they work for and ask for last year's W-2. So we're based in Dallas. We've got clients in Fort Worth, West Texas, locally. So, I mean, it's just really kind of running into the right people and being able to ask the right questions and understand the entrepreneur's focus and needs and say, well, here's some recommendations and here's how I can help you, or I can't help you, but this guy can. So we're based North Texas for now.
That's fine. Are y'all trying to focus on one industrial segment, one industrial industry, like retail or restaurant or?
That is a great question. There are industries ideally that we don't want. We're getting some traction right now with municipalities because their small municipalities are having a terrible time managing costs. They've got an older workforce, they've got higher insurance costs, they have lower revenues because they're small. But to answer your question specifically, what is the demographic? It's that guy who says, or lady who says, my employees are one of my biggest assets. And how do I get more time out of my business? How do I open a second location or a fourth, fifth, and sixth location? So our demographic is really going to be about the personality of the entrepreneur, because what we want is the people that want to grow and that want to create a positive experience for their employees. So we terminated a relationship recently with a client. We had the conversation of, and I asked him, do you view your employees as an asset or a liability? And he said some choice things, but ultimately they're not real important, and if they don't do their job, he'll get some new ones. So a mentality like that is not what we want to be a part of, and it's not going to help him grow. And that's his internal. So we shook hands and said, we'll be friends until the end, and this is the end. So, but that's a great question. Thank you.
Is there a certain company size you'd like to work with? Small companies, large companies, medium?
Thank you for that. Yes, ideally, the company is going to be probably about 48 to 50 and below.
Million or people?
People.
Okay.
People. So our smallest client has 1 employee. Our largest client has 27 employees. To answer the second part of that question, I think the top line revenue of the company, we have 21, is about 27 million a year. And our smallest company, they do about 650,000 a year. So we did meet with somebody recently, which was great. They have a company that do about 100,000 a year.
Yeah.
I made some recommendations, told her how to get to the point she wanted to get to, and said, your industry is very mature, and using us probably wouldn't be that advantageous, because I can answer your questions and you really don't need to pay us to do what we're going to do, because, I mean, your industry is very simple. So ideally 50 and below, and ideally it'd be great if they have HR concerns. I mean, if they've got, how do we reduce retention? We went into one company and he's like, I can't keep people. Nobody wants to work. And I asked him, I said, is it that nobody wants to work, or is it nobody wants to work here? And the people that you want, the ideal people, the great people, already have jobs. So how do you attract those people and retain them in an efficient, cost-effective way? And that turned into an entirely different conversation that put us on track to develop a plan to say, okay, this is the type of employee that I'm really after. This is what I need to reduce as far as my turnover. This is how we need to, these are the systems we need to put in place for training and tracking. And ultimately, what we will save him over an 18-month period in his new hires will more than pay for the consulting fees and the things that we would require from him. But that's a good question too.
So you are basically, from my understanding, just a basic general business consultant.
I do a lot of consulting.
Yeah.
And think of our company as an outsourced Fortune 500 HR company. We're going to provide the technology, the efficiencies, the conversation, position things inside the company to say these are the assets that we need to address. So I do a lot of consulting, yes, but ideally, at the end of the day, we're an administrative service organization that provides technology and processes to small businesses to help them grow and to help them expand.
So in my last company, I used a PEO, private employer organization, which is one of the services that you can offer.
Yes.
I found it very beneficial just to track hours and enter those in and have paychecks produced, deductions done, taxes paid, all of those kinds of things, because I focused then on my business. So tell us a little more about PEOs and how they can be used today in today's economy to provide HR and benefits for small companies.
So when you think about a large company, let's say they have 450 employees or 4,500 employees, and they have a person in HR that just does HR. But if you're a company that only has 40 employees, all of those employees still have the same needs. But that company is not willing to afford, or it's not a good idea for that company of 45 employees to afford an HR professional that costs $75,000 to $125,000 per year. So we offer HR and health insurance, and workers' comp, and negotiations for the risk management, and all the things that are going to occur in an HR, but as a part-time basis. So it gives them the ability to attract big company talent and retain them. In addition to that, our technologies. So we've got one client, they hire a lot of subs. So we'll put those subs into our system and they'll say, okay, the job is going to cost this particular location, the job was bid at $150,000, the labor was about $70,000. We know that this is an 8-week project, so our labor should be this per week. One of our technologies gives them the ability so that those contractors can clock in on the job, at the job. It gives them geofencing so they can log in and say, okay, Andy, Eddie, all the people that are on this job clocked in and they were at the job. They can refresh that and see where they are at 11:15. Well, it looks like they left early for lunch, so let's adjust their time. And it updates every 5 minutes, almost in real time, every 5 minutes to say, okay, we're 8 weeks, this project is 8 weeks. We're 4 weeks in and we're on track for labor, or this particular guy has way more hours than he's supposed to. Let's call the foreman and find out what's going on with this. But it gives them insight to the project. And that system, a guy that has 40 regular employees and only does about $4 million a year, it's not advantageous for him to buy the technology, hire an HR person, and go full-blown and compete with the companies that have 10,000 employees. But he can hire us on a very small basis, utilize the same tools and efficiencies, and get to the same type of profitability numbers without breaking the bank. So there's lots of advantages to a PEO, co-oping the people in the organization to leverage down the expenses of the best tools in the industry.
So you're part of the shared economy too, just like I am.
Very much. The shared economy, there are lots of efficiencies. The old joke, it's cheaper by the dozen, and the guy says, we'll just keep loading it into the truck until it's free. Never gets quite to that point, but there's a lot of opportunity when you share cost to defray that. And just think if you bought a software that did that, it cost you $25,000 on the front end, it was going to cost you $1,800 a month to maintain it. But in 2 years, it's a dinosaur. We're able to do that and defray that cost across thousands of people. So you get the advantage, you get the tools, and you get everything you need, but you don't have the big lump sums in your business to have to overcome.
So what about legal constraints? So you're operating in Texas, so your primary concern will be Texas regulations.
We have attorney relationships. We've had several things like breach of information, failure to maintain records. We've had things that have happened with our clients, and we have an attorney that she answers the phone whenever we call her. We also have an additional relationship that we have an attorney on call in every state. So in places like Indiana and Ohio, where there are laws that impact labor at the county level, and they can be different by county. If you're going to do a job in that area, or you're going to open a location, or you're going to buy a business in that location, you're either going to pay full price, or you pay a shared price, which is substantially significant. So yes, I mean the legal aspect of it, the documents, the ability to write documents, the training, safety trainings. I mean, sexual harassment's an issue. It was in the Wall Street Journal about a week ago. Mid to small level firms are having a huge problem with it, and the legal fees associated with that are destroying those companies. So putting a plan in place that says, here's the training. Everybody, we know that you logged in at 3:42 on March the 1st and watched the video, but then whatever happened after that, well, we have proof that we provided the training. We've got documentation that they watched the entire video. They didn't have to go out and create an LMS system, learning management system, create the videos, record those, warehouse those, or anything like that. So we provide that to them, and it provides protection to the company if that individual does something inside the agency. So yes, there's a lot of opportunity both in the legal, but you know, the legal industry, a lot of attorneys' rates have gone from 30 years ago from $175 an hour to $675 per hour. It's not that they're doing more work, it's that because there are so many efficiencies built into their business that it's hard to get to a case that they bill 100 hours because the technology provides them everything they need. So it's still valuable, it just doesn't take as much time. So those metrics change, but we have access to all those and offer those to our clients across the board.
What's your primary means for attracting customers?
It's really just the opportunity to meet with them and get a follow-up appointment, discuss some of the things that they're trying to, what their goals are, and evaluate what they are as a person and as an entrepreneur, and what their goals are for their people and their business. So from a strategy standpoint, we meet with folks, we have discussions and talk about goals and how to develop their business and what their plans are. And a lot of times they're either going to say, hey, I've got it under control, or, you know, I like what we're talking about, I want to hear some more. And then we develop strategies and goals to get them to their goals. So it's a very organic opportunity. I mean, you don't have folks walk into the gas station and say, I got 10 on pump 2, give me 2 of those candy bars and that purple PEO. It's a relationship. So it has to start that way to continue.
Are there a certain area of the state you're trying to focus on, or you would just go to wherever the customers?
Because we're virtual, they can call us from anywhere. Mm-hmm. Ideally, I like to make sure that we're on site because, yeah, you have access to our face and our email and our phone on your dashboard 24 hours a day, 7 days a week if we're available. But there is a huge advantage to walking in, shaking hands, let's go have some lunch, and talk about the other stuff. Because the other stuff in business is not just numbers. It's people.
Yeah.
You know, I found very early on that I loved my employees, whether it was helping them learn a little bit about accounting, helping them learn how to manage their credit or buy a house. My employees in my locations were everything. And the old idea, the customer's always right. Probably shouldn't say this on video, but the customer's not always right. My employees were paramount, and I took care of them. And we ran great businesses because they took care of the customer ultimately. So getting to interact with people at their location may not be every week, may only be once every other month, but putting a name to the face, you know, shaking a hand is very important to what we're doing. So that's an excellent question.
So you're focusing in Grayson County, and it sounds like maybe Abilene right now? Do you have a circuit of places that you're going
So
to that?
that's a good question. So I went to Hardin Simmons University in Abilene, Texas. I graduated from there, and consequently, Abilene's a great place in that people go there, and you may experience this at the university. They go to school there, and they find a job locally, and they never leave. So every time I go back to town, I run into people that I know, and I'm very passionate about the university. I'm very passionate about business. We're getting involved with the Economic Development Council there. So Sherman is important to me because I live right down the street, and Abilene is because I'm tied to the university. So really kind of we're working in between those two, so we'll get both ends of that. I'm the regional director for the Economic Development Council in Abilene, has San Angelo, Midland, Augusta, Lubbock, Amarillo. So that will start to spoke out from that center location. So it's great relationships. We're building those types of things here. Are we opposed to Harris County and Houston or going to San Antonio? Absolutely not. But from a circuit standpoint, it's not between here and there. So for now, that's what we're doing, and it'll give us opportunity to grow from there.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Did y'all custom build the software, or you just buy it from off the shelf and you put it together in a way it's advantageous to your clients?
so what we did is we interviewed 17 different companies. We flew to Indiana, Ohio, Massachusetts, had them come down here, because like I said, I'm a big eyeball-to-eyeball guy. I did a lot of things over the internet and interviewed a lot of softwares before we selected one. And the company that we went with is 40 years old, and which is an eternity in the electronic world. So they do data analytics, they do payroll, they've tied into the IRS, they've got all these different modules. So when we saw how they integrated, we said we want these types of things, and they created a custom program for us that we in turn offered our clients. So whether it's ACA reporting, whether it's FMLA compliance, whether it's person crazy. So we have automated those processes and their trackings and different things to make that. Because at the end of the day, the most important thing is for the entrepreneur to be able to do what they're passionate about, to automate the processes that help them, rather than have processes that drag them down.
And isn't that essentially another benefit, Clint, is that you've become a subject matter expert with the software and the vendors, so that I, as the entrepreneur, although I could select that software, if I invest time becoming a subject matter expert in it, that is not necessarily a revenue generating activity.
Right.
Coming full circle back to what you started with.
Yes. Just because you know everything about something that doesn't make you any money, that doesn't mean you should spend time on it. And yes, we have passions as entrepreneurs, but at the end of the day, if a person loves what they do, and I ask this a lot, you say, I love what I do. Great. Would you do it for free? Well, no. Okay, so there is some sort of reward to it, but yes, spend your time on the things that make you happy. Spend your time on the things that make you profitable. Enjoy your business. Grow your business. Outsource the things that are non-revenue producing activities, because those things ultimately are the reason that businesses struggle, lag, and ultimately sometimes fail. So I think we're coming into our final minute. Is there any one particular question that we missed or is really, really important?
The last question is, okay, Dee, go
I
ahead.
just wondered, I know you have sign-up services, do you have kind of like a pay per phone call, especially in the human resources?
No, what happens with that, and that's an elaborate question, it could be depending on the agency. Ours is really based on the employee. So a guy that has 10 employees pays half of what the guy who pays 20 employees, and the service is the service. And a lot of times you take a business owner who's very used to being in all the little details, and sometimes we've got to train them that they've got resources and how to access them. So it's a pay-per-seat kind of thing to make sure that everybody's equally distributed, I guess is a way to do that. But yeah, there's some things in there that give them the opportunity just to learn to outsource it. So great question. With that, I would like to thank you guys for having me. Ruth, you're always a pleasure to spend time with, and I thank you so much for letting me.
Well, we got one final question. What, as the community can do for you?
Okay. Really, the answer to that question is when you identify an individual that has things like, oh, this part of my business drives me crazy, or, oh, I have employee issues, or, you know, this bill is too high, or problems in the business. Now, there are people that are really good at making money, and they're terrible at running a business, and they may stay that way. But typically, the person that's gonna pop up in your head and go, I should introduce them to Proxy Pay, is good person, good work ethic, and has problems in their business. So those types of folks, I got a guy. Just tell them, hey, I got a guy. This is his card. I'll give him your card and have him reach out. Guys, thank you so much.